If you're trying to build a great six-pack, I'm sure you've heard abs are made in the kitchen, because if you have too much body fat, your abs aren't going to show. And while that's true, just getting lean will not be enough for a well-defined six-pack. So today I'm going to show you what it takes to get a well-defined six-pack, and I'm going to do it in 3 simple steps. Trust me, I've been the guy who is thin and had no visible abs. In fact, in these pictures, I'm probably around maybe 150 to 160 pounds. But then if you check out this photo, I'm in the 190s and actually have visible abs. So what's the difference between the two? Little to no training versus years of consistent training and building the muscle necessary to be displayed. Now, of course, to get a well-defined six-pack, you're gonna have to get leaner, but you have to take the time to build the abs first or they're never gonna pop. And that's step number 1, how to build bigger abs. Remember, your abs are a muscle just like any other muscle. And the problem I see so many people make is you're doing the wrong ab exercises that aren't gonna build your six-pack. Remember, your six-pack is your rectus abdominis, and the main function of the rectus abdominis is to bring your chest in towards your crotch. So crunching type variations. So you can do all the planks and side planks and twisting movements you want to do in the world. They're going to do very little for building a six-pack. I'm not saying they don't have other values, they certainly do, just not much for building your six-pack. So ideally you want movements that you can overload weight on, keeping the reps between about 8 and 15 reps for that muscle hypertrophy range, and you want to train your abs 2 to 3 times per week to maximize the results. And the movements you want to focus on, again, crunching type variations. So you can start with just regular crunches if you want, especially as a beginner and you can't do very much, it's fine. Problem is, you're not going to be able to overload weight, and it won't take long to be able to do way too many to keep it into that 8 to 15 range. And then you can progress to leg raises. Now make sure when you're doing this, you're bringing the pelvis up towards your chest and not just swinging your legs up and down. You can progress to decline crunches for an extra challenge, and then if you get really good at those as well, you can start holding a weight above you to create some overload and add an extra challenge to the movement. From there, you can progress to hanging leg raises. Again, make sure you get that pelvis up. Machine crunches are a great one to help overload the weight. Make sure you do these under control and create some time under tension and not just rep them out too quickly. And lastly, I like rope crunches. Again, make sure you're bringing your chest in towards your pelvis and don't just bring that weight straight down into the floor. You want to focus on your rectus abdominis. So now that you know what types of exercises do, that brings us to step 2, what you need to do to make sure those muscles are growing from that training response. And you do that in a couple different ways. One, you gotta make sure you're getting enough protein in. You want to eat around at least 1 gram per pound of whatever goal weight you may have in the future. I personally recommend more closer to 1 gram per pound of your actual weight, just to make sure you're maximizing the anabolic response and getting all the benefits that come with it. Because remember, protein is what builds muscle. Then you also have to make sure you're not constantly dieting. This might be the biggest mistake you're making. I see it all the time, because with all the dieting you're doing, you're just destroying your metabolism, making it that much harder to lose body fat. So if you take plenty of time out of a deficit, let these muscles grow in a way they can't do when you're always dieting. Not only will you have much better abs when you do eventually cut in the future, but the cutting process will go so much better. Which then brings us to step 3. This is where you actually are going to start getting lean to help those abs pop. One of the most important parts, make sure you're not rushing the process here. You need to be patient, especially getting down to really low levels of body fat. Your body's going to fight you much harder. It's going to be a more challenging process. Plus, you have to understand, oftentimes your belly fat is the last to go. So I like to call it the paper towel effect. Whereas if you look at a roll of paper towels as the amount of body fat your body has, that early stage is going to be everything else. To get a well-defined six-pack, you need to get down closer to the core of the paper towel. Body fat works in a similar manner. So you don't see as many changes up front, but then down the road, as you get closer, smaller changes in weight make bigger changes to your body composition. So while I do recommend losing between about 0.5 to 1% of your weight on average per week, but keep in mind too, don't get too tied into that scale weight. Sometimes, especially if you're newer to the process, you can see big changes in body composition without a lot of change in scale weight. And at the end of the day, you're trying to see your abs. You're not trying to see a number on the scale. Now, the next obvious question is how much you should be eating. Where do you start your calorie deficit? How do you make adjustments when you hit plateaus? So to find out those answers, make sure you check out this top video up here next, and I'll walk you through the process, and I'll see you in one of those other videos.